Hello and welcome to our first MoneyNext audio event where we are going to help you level up your conference experience with 5 pro tips. Now, our pro today is none other than Mark Johnstone, the Chief Strategy and Growth Officer here at MoneyNext. Hi, Mark. It's great to have you here with us today.
Hi, Emma. Thanks so much for having me. Really looking forward to this. This is our first audio event. So, yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks, everyone, for joining us.
Brilliant. Well, to everyone tuning in, if this is your first audio event, there will be an opportunity to ask any questions you have about conferences in general to Mark and also our events upcoming this June. So if you do want to do that at any point, you can use the raise hand button next to your listening icon to do that. And we will make sure that there is a dedicated time for questions at the end, but do feel free to just raise your hand throughout if you have any questions that you would like to ask at the time. So, Mark, let's dive into those tips. I would love to hear what your top 5 tips are for attendees who are looking to up their conference game this year.
Excellent. Thanks very much. Well, my 5 pro tips for attendees attending events are: number 1, engage with the event early. Typically, event apps go live 2 weeks ahead of the event. Apps should now have all really good usability. There are no excuses from organizers for a poor experience in 2024. So plot your sessions and network. Do that ahead of time. Don't wait till you get on site to start asking how to download the app and stuff. Get ahead of the game. The more time and effort you invest prior to an event, typically the more you'll get out of it. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, I'd say come open and ready to interact with others. If you think of the best event you've ever been to, it doesn't have to be a conference. It could be a social event. It could be a wedding. Now, chances are that event was really great and memorable because of the people and the company you were in, okay? And the conference is really no different to that. You can take that experience to the next level by striking up a conversation with someone new, having lunch with new colleagues or a drink to discuss the day's highlights. Make sure you come open and ready. Don't just have your head in your mobile or buzzing around from meeting to meeting, or session to session. Have a look around you and see who's available and who's ready to strike up a conversation about a session you've just been in together, perhaps. Or look out for colleagues who've been in those sessions or been to elements of the show that you have as well. That will really make a major difference to your conference experience. Number 3, I'd say make the most of any networking opportunities on offer. Networking drinks, really great way to interact. We also run like a breakfast, which will be a great way to start the day. And of course, there's a program like a roundtable sessions or roundtable discussions. The best sessions for these are ones that break down a large audience and put like-minded people in a room together. So I would say, please do take advantage of these kind of opportunities whilst they're there. 4th point would be strategic about booth visits. Okay, so plan your expo hall visits in advance. Focus on the companies that align with your specific needs and interests. You'll need to do a little bit of homework. Check out the exhibitor profiles. You can engage with companies through a really good event app, or check out an organizer's social media for videos or white papers from sponsors or partners. But that way, you can get around that exhibition hall and maximize your time by going over to the people that you think will have a biggest bearing on what the answers you're looking for from that particular event. And my final tip would be to befriend the organizer. Okay, so typically we're a really helpful bunch. We've been organizing these sort of events for 12 months in advance, and we wouldn't be in this game if we didn't like events and if we didn't like people. So use us, ask questions of us, let us know what you're looking for. Speak to us on site, ask for recommendations, or can we point you out some good people to meet, or even make an introduction? So I would say that's another great tip. Is just go and have a word with the organizer, tell them what you're trying to get out of the day, and they can give you a hand as well. So they're really my 5 tips for B2B conferences.
Wow, those are some brilliant tips, Mark. And I think whether you're attending any kind of event, as you mentioned, they're going to be especially helpful and really get people having the most out of their conference experience. Now, of course, wouldn't be here if we didn't get a chance to talk about our very own conferences that are taking place this June. For any listeners that are new to Money Next, we have four brilliant co-located events happening this June in London: the Banking Transformation Summit, the Wealth Transformation Summit, the Insurance Transformation Summit, and the Lending Transformation Summit. And I would love to pick your brain a bit about these events, Mark. After all, you're the expert on these. So, just to kick those off, I want you to tell us why financial services professionals should attend our co located summits this summer.
Okay, thanks, Emma. So I would say, number one, I'd say the program. I think we've got an outstanding program of panels and keynotes, really interactive talks, and some visionary speakers, some fantastic speakers. Our conference team goes to really great detail when securing the speakers and also ensuring each panel discussion is really diverse and inclusive. So that would be my first good reason. And another one would be the audience. We have a policy here of inviting key stakeholders like banks, insurers, wealth firms, and lenders to join the event, which can be very prohibitive to most events, but we've found it lends itself to a fantastic audience that everyone is really very appreciative of. I'd say hospitality. We've got a great level of hospitality available. We've got a street food buffet lunch. Now, I'm sure most people are aware that food at events can be pretty awful. Last year, ours was fantastic, and hopefully we can replicate that again this year with what we've got to offer. We have a barista for some great coffee. We've got fruit smoothies that we serve, and we've got networking drinks. It really does add to a kind of a first-class experience. We've also got the roundtables. So we've got financial services biggest roundtable program, over 100 roundtables across the 2 days. And they cater to everyone based on our experiences with people and how they like to interact with these discussions. So you can either be a contributor or you can be an observer. You can dive right in and get involved in the conversation, or you can sit back and take that conversation in and see what people are discussing in it. And finally, I'd say the venue is a great point. So, Excel, we work very closely with. It's actually a really easy place to get to. We're actually based in Bristol. And so Excel, being on the far side of London, was really difficult for us previously. But now with the Elizabeth line, it's 3 minutes from Canary Wharf, 20 minutes from Paddington, and 40 minutes from Heathrow. And that's direct on that Elizabeth line. So it makes it a much more different experience of getting there, which is fantastic. So they would be kind of the reasons that I would certainly get involved in the show this year.
Brilliant. And I know I'm definitely looking forward to two things: that smoothie bar and the roundtable program, which is just set to be absolutely brilliant this year. And then my next question, Mark, would be what you feel really makes these events stand out compared to the others that are on the market right now.
Thanks, Emma. Well, I think there's loads of events, loads of great events out there. Okay, so now how ours maybe differs slightly from some others would be we really target specific job titles and specific types of companies to attend. So banks, insurers, wealth management firms, lenders. Our model is inviting, say, banks for free to ensure we stick to very specific quotas on who we want present. So let's say for Banking Transformation Summit, 75% of our audience work for banks. Okay, so they directly work for banks. From our experience, that's a great mix of like-minded individuals sharing experiences and solution providers offering solutions. So I really do, wholeheartedly believe that the audience makes an event, and we work super, super hard to make sure those quotas of types of people present at an event are really, really good for everyone attending.
It sounds like it's going to be a very diverse and interesting audience this year, Mark. And for our listeners today on our audio event, how can they actually stay updated with the event progress as we get a bit closer and maybe even get a bit of a sneak peek of more of what to expect at our summits this June?
Yeah, it's a great question because we work really hard in our marketing and how we showcase what's going on. So number one, we've got a newsletter goes out at the end of every month. So it's a really good recap of what's been going on and keeping ahead of progress on the shows. Number two, follow our social platforms. So there's always sort of video interviews we do with certain speakers, that sort of thing, or with sponsors. Articles, that sort of thing, that all goes into links on our social platforms. And finally, everyone who kind of subscribes gets subscribed to our MoneyNext Insider Report. So that's an in-depth report from our stakeholders on the state of the market and a deep dive into a lot of the discussions that will be talked about at MoneyNext 24. So they're the kind of ways you could keep ahead, but also a nice recap on where we are as an industry.
Personally, I'm very much looking forward to that MoneyNext Insider Report. It's going to be a brilliant way to give insights and actually just round up what the events are really about. Now, with all of that brilliant advice and information from Mark, I would love to open the floor to any questions from our listeners today. If anyone wants to ask about our events or just get some tips on conferences in general from Mark. So I see we have a question from James Allen here. Hi, James. Lovely to have you with us today.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask how interactive you think the Transformation Summits will be for the audience. Can delegates kind of get involved in any of the content or discussions, or is it more just a case of watching speakers on stage?
What a brilliant question, James. Mark, I think you would be very well pleased to answer that one.
Yes, certainly. Yeah, I mean, we absolutely encourage interactivity in the sessions, and I think that plays a really good important role in how what you want to get out of an event. So we ask for people to ask questions throughout the sessions. Our chairs are briefed on that. We use technology as well to help ask questions. So if you're not confident in getting up and standing and putting your hand up and asking questions in sessions, then you can use the technology as well to ask that question. But also, I think it's a great way to kind of showcase your hand to the rest of the audience as well. If you're feeling brave, then I know from being in sessions myself that some of the great speakers and some of the great people we know now or we're connected with have asked questions, and I've kind of taken note of who they are and use that to connect with them later on at the show or off-site afterwards as well. So I think it's a great way to do it. We've also got the roundtables as well, which is a fantastic way to kind of follow up and further that discussion, which we'll go into further detail on a certain topic as well, because although we've got 2 days of interactive discussions, then there's not a lot of time in between. And sometimes it's quite nice to then go into a session where you can actually voice what you've heard and have a bit of interactivity as well with some of the speakers or some of the mentors that are running the actual round tables. And finally, I'd say attend the networking drinks. Now they're a really good way to kind of bring together your thoughts on a day. So come along and summarize the day, discuss the main talking points, what you've heard, what you'd like to hear more of, that sort of thing. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that question, James. And I think, as Mark says there, obviously there's so many ways that we can be interactive at our summits this year. We now have another question from Amy Caburn. Hi, Amy. What would you like to ask our expert Mark today?
Hello, Emma, and thank you for those really interesting points, Mark. I would really like to know, what is the best way to plan my day ahead of attending the events in June?
What a brilliant question, Amy. And there is a few interesting ways to do this. Mark, would you like to give this one an answer?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think primarily the major thing to do is get on the app. I mean, our event app is very well received. We work very closely with our audience from past events and the stakeholders to make sure that it's as user friendly as possible, and we've got some really good feedback on that. So get on the app, and you can kind of reserve. You can tailor your program that you want to, when things are going on, the sessions that you don't want to miss. You can look at the roundtable program on there. You can look at speakers. You can look at the sponsors and exhibitors and work out the booths. You can see a map of the venue, all that kind of stuff. So it really can plan your day very effectively. And that will go live on the 29th of May, I believe, which is a couple of weeks before the show. And it just gives you the opportunity then to plan your visit in detail well ahead in advance. And that was one of the points, if you remember, that I made about how to get the most out of an event is plan ahead. So that going live 2 weeks before gives you plenty of time then hopefully to plan and see what sessions, roundtables, exhibitors, that sort of thing that you want to be present at.
Brilliant. I think there's so many great ways there that you can actually interact in advance and actually kind of plan your whole day out and what you want to see in advance as well. And now I'd love to kind of offer the chance to anyone else in our listeners right now who would like to ask a question, but also just say that there is always ways that you can keep up with how the events are progressing and see what we're up to here at MoneyNext as the countdown continues to this June's summit. And that is kind of keeping up with us on social media, keeping up with us on our websites. As Mark mentioned, we have brilliant newsletters that go out every month. And you can always get in touch with us at MoneyNext to ask your questions about the summits. So I want to thank all of our listeners for joining us today. It's been brilliant to speak with you, Mark, and to really get a bit more insight into your top tips for attendees at conferences generally, but also a bit more insight into what makes the summits this June so unique and so brilliant for people in financial services. So thank you, Mark, for joining us today.
No worries. Thank you so much, Emma. Well done.
Okay, thank you to all of our listeners. And as I mentioned, please do keep up with us and feel free to reach out with any questions that you've had if they come up after you stop listening today. So thank you everyone for joining our audio event today, and please keep in touch.